Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Wellness with Delaney podcast. I am here today with Morgan Cassidy. She is a nurse and an entrepreneur who owns an amazing IV spot, which is why I have an IV currently going into my arm. Thank you so much for coming today, Morgan.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, thanks for wanting to come out and see the space, and ask me questions about inner waters.
I'm so excited to. Yeah, well, let's start with what is going on in my arm right now.
Cool. So what you have there is the high tide, and we chose that one because I'm really stoked on amino acids right now. They're the building block. They're the building block of proteins, and a lot of those are responsible for the creation of hormones and neurotransmitters as well. So not only are they upholding like our physical body system, they also help to uphold like our endogenous endocrine system. And that's really strongly linked to our mental health. And so, mental health has been a big topic of, I think, just all around in the world these days for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But certainly it's drawing my attention more and more. It's certainly something I've had to deal with for myself even more and more in the last couple of years. And so any ways that we can support, it's like we do these things to our bodies that actually cause these physical reactions that then trigger mental health responses, if that makes sense, emotional responses. And it's like the chicken before the egg kind of a thing. So anything we can do to help the physiological aspects of our mental health is something I'm all about. So and that's a lot of the foundation of Inner Waters. So the amino acids, you got some vitamin C, which helps again with detoxification and immune boosting. We've got the B complex in there as well. That's also helping to just cellular health, cellular regeneration, energy. And then finally the mineral blend, which is just so great for all the electron chain transports, energy, sending signals. We got a little bit of magnesium in that one as well. So helping with calming, sleep aid. Yeah, all kinds of goodies.
Amazing. I think so many people think that IVs are just hydration and don't realize how much you're actually putting in your body.
Yes.
And so that's really cool and how much you can. And I love all the minerals. I've been learning more and more, like minerals are seen as like one of the least sexy nutrients, but they're actually like so important and so good for every part of health. Like they're catalysts for so many vital like interactions in our bodies.
Right.
So I love that that's included. So that's really cool. There's so many things going into this. And I love that you touched on how our bodies actually really do affect our mental health. Like so many of us, I think we walk around thinking that our mood disorders are just the burden we have to carry. When oftentimes there's actually physiological imbalance, and that's something that can be healed, which is so wild. I know healed, I feel like, is a word that you're not supposed to use, but I'm using it. But it's crazy to think that like a lot of the things we carry around, we don't have to. So that's really cool that this IV literally doesn't just affect my body, but it affects mental health as well.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I mean, I've had to learn certain things, foods, beverages, things of that nature, that when I cut them out, or different behaviors that when, I emphasize them or de-emphasize them, that it's like, oh, I'm dealing with a lot less anxiety or existential crisis moments, and that it's not just about going to a therapist, which I highly recommend, but so we can work with our bodies to support all of that as well.
I love that so much. Yeah, it takes a village, right? So you can be going to therapy, going to a counselor, and still doing these things and taking accountability and insourcing your mental health and taking your power back, essentially. So I love that this is something that kind of helps do that, which is amazing. Okay, so this is, you said, the high tide, correct?
Yes.
And then if you guys aren't watching this on YouTube, I recommend watching it on YouTube. I'll put some clips on social media as well, because we're in this beautiful spa. It's such a beautiful, gorgeous space that Morgan has created herself in Leavenworth, Washington. So if you're in the Washington area or driving through, highly recommend. And I'm in this lounge chair with a needle in my arm, these bags of liquids coming in. I mean, it is quite the experience. It's really, really cool. But what are some of the different blends that you offer and the benefits to them?
Yeah. So the High Tide is actually blended for activity, recovery, or preparation. So pre or post, marathon, hike through the enchantments, which are a beautiful hike that we have here in the area, a long bike ride, big climb. But really, I mean, it applies to anytime, truthfully. Just kind of depends on your goals of what you're wanting to receive through your infusion. Another one we have is the Low Tide. So they're all named because the brand Inner Waters. I was trying to go with water themes for all the therapies, which has been fun. I mean, that's part of what's been really fun about being an entrepreneur, is like the creative process of building a brand, from like fonts to color schemes to logos to then just like, this, it's like your baby. It's like you're building up this entity. So regardless, Low Tide, that works more for immune boosting. So when you're feeling really ill, vitamin C, zinc, the B complex as well. And I generally recommend glutathione with that one. Glutathione is just such a huge detoxifier. And a lot of times that's, what we're needing to help clear any of the side effects of the pathogenic illnesses that we have going on. And then we've got the Drift, which is supposed to support pre or post travel. That one's got magnesium and B12, B complex, and zinc. And then we've got, the Fresh Flow, which is a beauty blend. And what that has several nutrients as well, but the biotin B7 is what is highlighted in that one as far as beauty, because that nutrient helps with skin regeneration, hair and nail growth as well.
Amazing.
And then we have started doing high dose IV vitamin C as well, which is an amazing. That one I was inspired to start using because a patient that I work with actually is in remission with cancer. And so this is supporting that effort. But a lot of when high dose IV vitamin C is used, it's actually as an adjunct to chemotherapy. It helps to rebuild the body, and it really, with its oxidating effects, it just kicks the body into gear to help itself in killing off the cancer cells.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. So you really support people through so many seasons of life, whether it's something like cancer or something as simple as wanting to be a little bit more glowy and have gorgeous hair, skin, and nails. And I love that. Everything in between. So I was going to ask you, like, who would be, when's the best time to get an IV? I guess that kind of answers it, but we can go into, I know you sometimes help people who either have weddings coming up or are drinking, maybe Oktoberfest, because we are in a Bavarian village. Like, what are some of the fun times that someone can get an IV that they might not even realize it's part of their wellness journey?
Right. Well, thank you for reminding me. That is one of the blends I forgot to mention, which is liquid recovery, which is blended to help you either prepare or repair for a good night of festivities and libations and celebrations. I've worked with wedding parties, helping, giving them infusions in their wedding suite as they're getting ready for the night ahead. So helping them get energetic and hydrated for the event. Just an FYI, if you are getting an infusion for the intention of supporting a night of partying, the day ahead is definitely going to be more beneficial, because you're not only, you're preparing for the night ahead, and you're going to have less of a hangover the next day. And the same to be said actually with activity recovery and preparation. When you think about it, you get an infusion before the activity, then it's actually also enhancing your performance and your recovery. So pre-infusion is generally what's recommended. I would even say that when it comes to my travel blends, though I do think either end of your trip is going to be beneficial, but because we're on the way to somewhere and we're getting on the plane or whatever it is, exposure is heightened, and then you're showing up into a new environment. So there's just a lot for the body to adjust to that you can help support it in during that time.
That's cool, because I think a lot of people would think of recovery, whether they're drinking or exercising or traveling, like they're going to do the recovery things after. Mm-hmm. But you're saying actually before is going to set your body up for success and decrease, I guess, like the stress, like the load and toll it takes on your body, which is really cool to think about. And I think that does kind of shift it for a lot of people if they can plan ahead, whether if they are somebody who drinks or goes out. I know for me, even if I have a glass or two of wine, I feel like, whoa, the next day. So it's nice to be able to hydrate before and prep the body. I think that's really, really fascinating. And then, so on top of all of the IVs that you do offer, you have like this whole nervous system spa. So can you tell us a little bit about the crazy things you can do for your nervous system just while sitting here with a needle in your arm?
Yeah. So I'll just kind of describe it from the experience from when you walk through the door. You'll be smelling some essential oils, a blend of clove and lime that work with calming or upregulating, meaning activating the parasympathetic, which is activating the rest side of our nervous system. So you'll be smelling that. And to preface all this as well is to say that when I created the nervous system spa, my idea was to approach calming the nervous system through the 5 senses. So that's smell, and then taste. You have a choice of a tasty beverage. I use Recess is the brand that I've come to enjoy. They just have really lovely blends of beverages that have nootropics, adaptogens. Some of the blends have hemp as well, but they have a form of magnesium that also crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it's just far more effective in that calming effect. So you get the beverage, you are brought to your chair to get to settle in. And then I actually have these cool branded socks, Inner Waters. We got our logo on them. I put one of those on your feet before you go into a little foot massager. So you get your feet squeezed and kneaded and rubbed. You'd be amazed how much these electronic foot massagers, they actually are pretty nice. And then I have a device called a pulsetto. So this is the pulsetto, and it goes around your neck, and you can see these silver electrodes. They sit on the vagus nerve right here, and it delivers electrostimulation. So if you think of our vagus nerve, we talk about how there's neural pathways, and that we strengthen certain neural pathways. They kind of become like a ditch, right? And the deeper the ditch goes, that's where the water is going to flow. For many of us, we've entrenched our stress response. So even when we are in a situation where we could be in our parasympathetic, our resting part of our nervous system, we're not able to get there because we're just so used to firing that sympathetic. So what this does, so then you can almost think of it, yes, it's not as, that neural pathway isn't as deep for the resting side of our nervous system, or you can almost think of it as being like atrophied. So what this does is it trains that side of the nervous system. So it's like digging that ditch a little deeper, strengthening that muscle, as it were, if you were to think about it more in that way. So yeah, it's a little training gym session for your vagus nerve. So that's going on while I'm then grabbing your vital signs, mixing your IV bag, And then once the IV is running, I put a heavy weighted blanket over you, which there's just been a ton of studies about when we're like swaddled or have weight on top of us. It just has this very calming effect for the nervous system. How that is evolutionarily significant, I'm not too sure. Probably something just to do with swaddling, or just in tribe we were closer and held more. I'm not too sure, but so then I lay you back in your chair. You get a eye mask that's creating darkness, and then a headset that's playing binaural beats. And so what binaural beats do is it actually does these tones, separate tones in either side of the headset, that then your brain fills in the tone in between the two. And it basically entrains your brain into different brainwave frequencies. I tend to help people into theta and delta because those are just slower brainwave frequencies. So usually I have people going from something like 7 hertz in their journey down to 0.5. So essentially you're laying back, you've got this heavy weighted blanket, your eyes are covered, the room is dark, you have this headset on, playing binaural beats. It's noise canceling and the sound is really good. So it's like the opposite of sensory deprivation, but it also is all elements that are building together to calm the nervous system. I will say 90% of the people who are experiencing this are taking a little happy nappy, as I like to call it. They're just going to sleep. And the response I get when people come out is pretty profound. I mean, people are just like, oh my God, I just went to another world. I felt so free. I've never slept so well in my life. So that's obviously really rewarding for me to hear, because that's really what I'm trying to do, is just create this space for people to even know that level of relaxation and know that part of themselves, that they're capable of that level of relaxation. And final little bonus is that our endogenous healing properties, our cellular healing properties that we have within the body to heal ourselves from within, are only activated when we're in our parasympathetic nervous system state. So, I mean, I'm not doing any rigorous studies or anything, but I just like the idea that there's probably some sort of synergy happening with you getting this quality hydration and all of these nutrients simultaneously as you're getting into your deep parasympathetic state. It's like packing a 1-2 punch to the overall healing experience.
Amazing. Yeah, there's so many things going on. I've actually gotten the whole experience before, and with you, and just so the audience knows, it was truly incredible. I remember because I definitely have an active brain, and I was like, how am I going to sit here for this long? And I was in this state of like, it was amazing. I was so relaxed. I don't know if I was, I don't think I was asleep, but I was somewhere in between sleep and wake.
Which is a beautiful place to be.
It's amazing. I came out feeling like incredible.
It's a very creative space, actually.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think we don't spend, I mean, like you were saying, we do these things that should be relaxing. You know, we go to saunas, we go get massages, we sleep, we sit on the couch, whatever, and we're not relaxed. And it's like essentially being in fight or flight is like being chased by like a tiger in the jungle, right?
Yeah.
And we're constantly in the state of stress, and there's so many things around us that are keeping us in fight or flight. And when you do that, you're going to have so many negative side effects. Like you're going to have the adrenal fatigue, you're not going to be creative, you're also not going to be able to lose weight, right? Because
absolutely
your body's holding on to fat protectively. So there are so many benefits all around of getting out of fight or flight that are not just mental. So what are some of the things that you see that are keeping people in fight or flight?
Oh my gosh.
Big question.
I know. I'm like, just get in your car, you know, and like hope that it starts. And, you know, things that are keeping people, I mean, gosh, yeah, you know, I'm fortunate in that I somehow got away from being overly indulgent in social media. Like I just Not to say that I don't get on there. Obviously, I use it for marketing purposes for my business, and there's so many great things on there. Like, I absolutely am not bashing social media at all. But what's concerning is that, I mean, I feel it when I'm on. I mean, it's like almost like a switch. I literally can, like, if I'm really paying attention, it's like, oh, there it goes, heart starts beating a little faster. My breathing gets more shallow. And then it's even sort of, I mean, what's great is my feed personally is full of a lot of health and wellness stuff. So I start to, if I am scrolling, I'm seeing a lot of content that actually is, beneficial or teaching me different things. But then there's also like I mean, everyone's feed looks different. These algorithms are built to perpetuate whatever it is you already are drawn to. Mm-hmm. So there's just going to be a lot of influence in that way. I mean, yeah, I think it's just our mindset too, and our culture of always being active, always going. I mean, and these are the things that I know have just been really influencing me and my levels of stress when it came to starting a business and, wanting to maintain a certain lifestyle that I've had my whole, existence. And realizing that, it's just a different chapter, and that, I'm shifting identities. I'm becoming a business owner and an entrepreneur, and, taking my career into my own hands, and that it takes a lot. And, so it's just the mental stories, the way our brain works, even to like perpetuate thoughts, all that stuff, I think is just really impactful on our mental health and our level of stress. And it's really an area where if we can give ourselves a little reprieve and learn different techniques to help break those cycles, that we're going to find a lot more space to really tap into that place of peace and calm.
I love that. Yeah. So for somebody who may be just listening at home, like, do you have any tips of little exercises or, techniques they could do to try to reduce some of the stress in their lives and kind of get into that parasympathetic?
Sure. I mean, just to name a couple, with the vagus nerve, there's definitely different techniques, kind of what this device is trying to mimic in some ways. Actually chanting or singing or gargling, all that creates a vibration which activates the vagus nerve. So those are just really easy things to apply. Put on your favorite song, maybe even something that is a little more like moving to you. Even there's definitely there's a showing to how chanting and more like spiritual singing, not so much on the stress response, but actually on longevity, that it actually lengthens the telomeres on the end of our DNA, which are a indication of longevity. So if you're going to be activating your vagus nerve, you could be doing a double whammy and working on your longevity as well. The gargling, cold water splashes on the face actually also help to upregulate or incite the vagus nerve. Ironically, you wouldn't necessarily think cold water on the face, but that shock response actually has the purpose of waking up the vagus nerve. And then beyond that, I mean, I definitely have been very intentional recently. I've gone through different phases, right? Like we go through these different chapters where like there's times where I've been super intentional, and then there's times where you're just like, I don't even have time to be intentional. And that's, one of the tricks we can play with ourselves, either through culture and society and what it's telling us and how we allow that to inform our beliefs. But I got away from my practices. Like I have an insane tool belt of different things that I've used over the years that have helped me to not only cope, but to like thrive in in times of stress. And but yeah, they need to be pulled out of the belt and be utilized. So recently I've been very dedicated about breath work and meditation practice. I do Wim Hof breathing.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's just so many great health implications for that specific style of breathing, though there are many, and really truly find the one that works for you best, that is just, the most exciting for you to do. Whatever is going to get you to do it, that's the one to do. So breath work and meditation. I do like to do some writing. Also, well, this is like a little side note, and I haven't got to tell you this yet, but doing things that just bring you a lot of joy. I've been intentionally putting together playlists that are super fun, that are like dance music, to where I'm actually now teaching a twerk yoga class.
Oh my gosh.
So side note,
amazing.
RN, infusion nurse, entrepreneur, and twerk yoga instructor. So yeah, it's just been so much fun I was approached to actually teach a class again. And I said, this is the only class that I will teach, because I need a little less serious in my life and a lot more silly. I just need that.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is what I want to teach. And so I've been taking dance classes in Wenatchee, and felt that I had enough experience at this point to be able to teach others. And so basically we blend asanas with twerk and floor play movements. So that's just a random side note. But I guess all that to say is, like, when it comes to techniques of calming the nervous system, it's just like, there's just so much in the world happening all the time that can like make us feel the gloom and doom. And it's there, like you will always have the opportunity to feel that. So you don't need to emphasize it. You don't need to promote it. And if anything, how can you bring in just whatever makes you feel silly and joy and childlike?
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And I think just like we don't have enough, just like being in the moment, having fun, not taking ourselves so seriously. But okay, actually, this I don't know if you even know about this, but I saw something recently. There was like a study. There are literal like health benefits of twerking that were done in like tribes, and it's like kind of an ancient practice.
Yeah, it is.
Can you explain like what are the health benefits of twerking?
Oh, I love that. This is where this is going. Yes, I mean, well, physiologically alone, there's like so many of us just are really locked up in our sacrum, and we don't have a lot of mobility to where the lumbar spine meets the sacrum. Like people just can't move their hips. And I mean, when you see like a professional twerker, which I am not, I mean, it is stunning. The ways that they're able to move their hips is just like, it's mind blowing. I mean, you're instantly inspired and maybe turned on. And I think that's also a-okay. But yeah, so just that level of mobility alone, and our pelvis is like the center of really our skeletal structure, right? I mean, it connects our lower body to our upper body. And it's also through different spiritual paradigms, it's like the creative center. It's our root. It's what helps us to feel secure and safe and sound. I mean, it is the womb. It is where babies are created. It's where the males create their sperm and all of this. So it's such an important place to have mobility and have flow, and to feel that there is fluidity there. And then there's a lot to be said around emotions being stored in the hips. Again, these are more like theories of sorts, but it's also amazing how much spiritual paradigms and theories and ancient wisdom that couldn't have been explained by science at one time are now being explained by science. There's ways that we're able to track it and find the, kernel of evidence that's like, well, now we can actually start taking this seriously because we've been able to prove it in a lab and recreate it, which for whatever that's worth, right on. But yeah, so I mean, just even pelvic floor health too, and the ways in which that is helps with all of our genital urinary and digestive tract health and the issues that can occur in that region, especially like women after giving birth. But really another thing is, I mean, it has a lot to do with reclaiming sensuality or sensual natures for us and ourselves and our body, not for the sake of anyone else. I've actually had a decent amount of feedback from people saying that they feel like they've really been able to make some headway on some healing from trauma by way of this kind of movement. So there's a lot to be said about all of that.
So fascinating. And I think so many people think of it as like a sexual dance, right? But like there for thousands of years, people have been also like now what we call twerking, but like using this like pelvic movement as a way to like activate different areas of health, not for anyone else, but like as a health practice. And I find that really fascinating. And even, like what you're saying about people holding trauma in their hips, it's really fascinating. You see a lot of people in like workout scenarios doing deep hip stretches and like breaking down in tears. And when you can release that trauma, it's pretty powerful. My sister actually has a background in somatic therapy, like dance therapy, and knows all. I really want to get her on the show too to talk about like the ways people hold trauma in the body, because it's very fascinating. And hips are like deep hip openers can literally cause people to like have an emotional like release, which is so fascinating. And it just goes to show like we're not separate from, our emotions, our brain, our body. All these things are not separate entities. We're one connected being, and we're a house of a spirit. And like whatever source, you see that from whatever someone's spirituality is. And I know that can look different for different people. Obviously for me, like I connect everything to my faith, being a Christian, but I think that really it kind of can look different to different people as far as like understanding that we are spiritual beings and everything's connected. So like how we move our bodies, how we move our hips, and all these things can be like spiritual, physical, emotional, and healing in so many different ways. So like whatever walk of life someone's in, like they can take that and use it in some capacity, which I find so cool. Okay, so kind of moving into your story, because you have a really cool story. How did you shift? So you're a nurse, so primarily medical. Like, how did you decide that you wanted to open up a wellness spa?
Yeah. Well, I've always been, not always, I would say, my dad definitely, it's funny how as I've grown older, it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely been a huge influence on, which by the way, let's just see, everything's looking good. Great.
Still alive.
Yes. Just in geeking out on health and wellness. And I would say it's kind of interesting. I would say it all started with tearing my ACL when I was 19 and snowboarding. And I mean, back then I was probably drinking rock stars and smoking cigarettes and eating gas station food on my way up to the mountain where I tore my ACL snowboarding. But I'd been wanting to get into yoga, and healing from the surgery was definitely an inspiration. So I took my first beginner's yoga class, 10 class pass, in Seattle area. And that was just the gateway to me really like beginning to explore mindfulness, meditation, breath. And then all of that just kind of stemmed to like how much we influence our own health, and that by way of being intentional, we can have profound effects on the quality of our life and our health. So eventually deciding to go into nursing, and, following through that educational pathway, I was holding these two paradigms. And of course, with nursing, I think I was definitely drawn to the science. I love pathophysiology and pharmacology, and learning about the body from that lens. And also I was just so drawn to the care. You know, I went to a holistic nursing program at Humboldt State University, and there's so much focus on working with the patient and seeing them as a collection of they're not just the parts, they are an entire collection of these parts that create a whole. And so really considering that when you are delivering their care on all levels. So that just carried with me. And as I continued to get through nursing and work in the acute care bedside medical system, I was just starting to see and feel the ways that the conventional medical model was really challenging my values of health and wellness and supporting people into better, meaningful, actualized health. So I was struggling in this realm for a while, but of course, you know, it's a paycheck, it's a good job, it's a great schedule, benefits, so on and so forth. So there was a point where I actually went into life coach training. And that was something I was pursuing for a little while because it just seemed like I would have much more of an effect to help educate people and support them through the changes they want to make with their health and behaviors. Which when you're in the hospital setting, I mean, you're in a resource poor environment that's asking you to do more with less all the time. I mean, the medical system right now is so stretched, you know, so the challenges it already faced in helping people to actualize health and wellness. I mean, there's just very few resources to emphasize that and truly support people into not only learning about the ways, understanding the importance, but then the implementation of that. So then I mean, through my health journey and just knowing what I know about the immune system and how our bodies are these amazing healing machines, you know, I am particular about what I put in my body, and I'm thoughtful and mindful, and I've seen the pharmaceutical industry, you know, of course, do amazing things. And then also I've learned enough now to know that it's an industry, it's a business, it's there to make money, and that just the implications of these medications, I think sometimes aren't taken as seriously or thought as being, I don't know, as profound as they can be. So regardless, I was just in a state, and I, you know, between things with my mother, who's dealt with chronic pain her whole life and has been on many different pharmaceuticals throughout her life. I've just seen the impact of that, and it has supported her in some ways, and then there's a lot of ways where it really hasn't. So coming from that kind of perspective, I was still nursing and travel nursing, doing the whole COVID unit travel nursing thing. When the vaccine became a conversation and that was being offered at that time, I mean, pretty immediately, I was just kind of like, I'm really going to need to see some evidence that's going to convince me that that's the way to go. And it really, I watched a lot, I listened to a lot, and it was something that didn't feel right for me internally. I mean, it was very visceral. Like, anytime I would check in, it just didn't feel right. There was something that didn't feel right. And I would question whether it had to do with the rushing of this to market, the ways in which they did the blind studies and then not, ended up giving those people the vaccine. There was just ways in which I was seeing it. And then there was just the approach that they had and the tone. That if anything for me, it actually just made me more like, I don't want to do this thing, So my interests in health and wellness, I'm sure, and my background with pharmaceuticals within my family and witnessing it in the hospital floor and different people that I was following who were exploring health and wellness. All of that really informed my choice to not get the vaccine. And so that was, almost 3 years ago now that I was asked to leave the bedside for that purpose. Where at that point I'd been working as an RN for 10 years in various settings. And that was a really, really hard transition. And it eventually ended up informing my personal life in a lot of ways too. That was incredibly challenging. So when you have everything stripped away, your career, your marriage, your home, all for something that you couldn't feel differently about. And, I felt like I was doing what my whole internal landscape was asking of me. You just start. I went through a dark night of the soul for sure. It was a beautiful process, not all the time, but being in this space now. So I was pursuing life coaching actually, and thinking I was just done with nursing overall. But as things have changed in the medical environment around the mandates and the vaccines and everything, regardless, I had this inspiration for this business. It lit up through me and it was just like, wait a second. That would be such a great model in this area. And I don't see anything like that. And whereas I had been pursuing life coaching and couldn't really find my grasp with that when it came to my voice or what I wanted to do specifically, I woke up every single day researching into best practice and the regulations and the state laws in Washington and what it means to be a CPOM state. What is immediate use mixing? What is the USP 797 guidelines? To be able to uphold best practice and developing policies and procedures and finding resources to help with all of that. I was just fascinated and couldn't get enough. And sometimes the stuff was like dry, it's not like fun information, but I was all about it. So, I would keep checking in, like, is this really the direction I'm going? Is this really what I want to do? Because this has been an uphill journey. The, gateway of entry into a business like this is no joke. It is real hard.
I believe it.
Yeah. And for good reason, right? I'm actually a part of an association, the American IV Association, which is the first and only, as far as I'm aware, professional association for IV hydration clinics. And they're there to uphold standards and create a space where regulation is something that we all embrace and welcome for the sake of safety and efficacy for our clients. So, that was a long story, but
no, it's beautiful. I love that you're sharing your story, and I think there's a lot of people like you, myself included, where you kind of have two camps, and this is said with love for everyone, and I believe in informed consent. I believe in medical freedom. Like, people make their decision, but there are people who I think saw some of the celebrity endorsements, saw some of the pushing, the like almost like intense push to try to just convince people in any way to get this vaccine. And for people, I think like you and myself as well, that the more they pushed, the more I was like, I don't want this. And the more I saw celebrities, like when I saw like Travis Kelce on TV promoting it, I was like, absolutely not. If I see it, like if you're going to try to use a celebrity to tell me what to do for my health, the answer is no, because I immediately, like, those red flags are going off. I don't want to do something for my health because a celebrity is doing it. I want to do it because it feels right and because the research is correct and the science is there. And I think that anytime corporations that make a lot of money and have immunity, like have that criminal immunity, are using people's like celebrity idols to convince them of a medical decision, that should be a big red flag. I just think that is not the reason you decide what to put in your body. So I think, like you, like the more they pushed, the more I'm like, why are you pushing so hard? You're making me want this less.
Yeah. I mean, and it's honestly interesting when you think about it from a feminine perspective too. It's like, how many of us in our lives as women, have been pressed in a way that, we weren't interested. It's like, no, thank you. How many times do I have to say no, thank you?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's times where I've questioned like how much that was just a version of me being like, this is the time that I am saying no, and that I want this like honored, and that I want my, like, I own this body. I own this body.
Yeah.
Nobody else owns this body. It is mine. And therefore, I really need to feel good about what I'm doing with it in order to stay in resonance with, my soul, my values, my morals, ethics, all that. So it was definitely an interesting time. It was so weird to be from that vantage point of a medical professional. And I mean, I was working in COVID units, and the language around what was being used around people who had chosen not to get the vaccine. I mean, it was assaultive, and it was odd because most people didn't know, because I wasn't going to share with them, because I was already feeling like I was, being completely marginalized and othered. And I just, it felt like this is just my business, but and the way it's affected all the areas of my life. I mean, it's just, I think that's something that I am wanting to hear more conversation around out in the world, actually, is just like, here we are, 3 years later, and how much has changed in regards to that information. And there's just like, and how many lives were profoundly changed in a way that was, I mean, truly having to rebuild from the ground up.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you are the only person who's going to live in your body, and nobody is going to advocate for you the way you are. And I hope that everyone can hear this and realize that when it comes to their health, no one's coming to save them. They are the ones living in their bodies. They're the ones who are going to live with how they treat their bodies. And we can't always outsource our decisions to doctors. Sometimes we have to insource. I like to say, like, we have to insource, and I'll say upsource, like, for spiritually, but there's this culture of us outsourcing all of our decisions to somebody else, when oftentimes we know what we want to do. We know what's right for us. And people, I think, really just need that permission to take the power back to make their own decisions, whatever that may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing I want to emphasize, is that I'm all for people making educated choices and really listening in for what's right for them. That is what I stand for.
Yeah.
I'm not in any one school. The only school I am in is to have there be transparency around the information, to have the information truly be out there for people to be able to be curious and ask questions and have those questions answered appropriately and not shunned or canceled. And then that we can all from that place make a choice, and that's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy for anyone who's feeling rock solid about whatever they're doing in their life. That's the key.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I always said I respect people who make their choice based on what they want to do and then they do it. But I always had a really hard time with people who made choices based on other people's opinions or based on they're like, I didn't want to do this, but I did it.
You know,
that's
it was a tough time.
Yeah.
It was yeah, it was an interesting time. So
for sure.
And I honestly feel for people who went that route, because I certainly had a lot of bugs in my ear to do that. And it was, I don't know, otherworldly actually, to find myself not being able to do it time and time again when it was becoming an issue in all the areas of my life that it was. But ultimately it's like I have to live with myself, and like you said, in this body every day. And I feel like I made the choice that if I had gone against that, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know how that would have changed the relationship with myself, and the relationship we have with ourselves is we're talking about mental health and hydration and all of these things. And it's just these are all ways that we are relating to our body. And when that relationship is questionable or challenged or severed in any way, that can be really hard to come back from, it's, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who have done that. And I support them in, breathing with that, being with that,
healing from it.
Yeah. And just forgiving themselves. I mean, there's plenty I have to forgive myself for in my life, that's for sure. And I guess just finding community and people and just all the different aspects of their life that can help support them support themselves, that are just truly there to say, we just want you to do what you know is best for you.
Yeah.
And to follow that.
Yeah. And it's never too late to start advocating for yourself.
Never too late.
Yeah. I hope that everyone can read that none of this is from judgment on either side of this table.
No.
But if you, and even if you did make a decision in any time of your life with your health that you now regret, you can start rebuilding now. Day one can be today, and you can forgive yourself. You can start healing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And you can always kind of make your way back and begin to learn to advocate for yourself and just kind of find that voice. So it's never too late to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that people can learn this before they have regrets. That would be the ideal case, but it's never too late to start healing and start practicing advocating for yourself. But okay, so kind of with that, I always love to know, what are people's just wellness goals in general? I love hearing from experts and people who are the pros in the medical and health fields. So what are some of the things that in your life right now you're working on the most?
Yeah. Well, as a new entrepreneur, I'm definitely mindset is huge, and finding that mentality of abundance and already living the life that I want to be leading, and the gratitude that I'm already there. That's been a really potent practice to bring in. What else? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, my meditation and breath work. I love fermenting veggies. Gut health is huge for me. I love geeking out on gut health and mitochondrial health too. I follow a health guy, Ari Whitten, who is amazing. He has a podcast as well, The Energy Blueprint, and that's his whole lens is through mitochondrial health. And I honestly feel like listening and following him has been just so transformative for my own health and the things that I implement. And a lot of which is like evolutionary biohacking, you know? It's like looking at the ways that we have evolved over millennia versus like how we've all adjusted to life and culture as it is in the last 200, 300, 400 years, you know, that it's like, okay, well, if we look back at the millennia and how we've evolved to require certain stressors in order to keep us resilient, that stuff just, I love, fascinating. Like cold plunges, I'm super into sunlight, especially early morning light. So that's all really stuff that I bring into my life on the regular, you know, and it's just amazing how when you know these little things that you can do, like oil pulling, my oral care is like on point. It's just like you can implement them into like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do the dishes. I'm going to do this while I'm doing the dishes. I'm going to drive. I'm going to do this while I'm driving. I'm going to read. Well, I could be reading outside under a tree and like grounding and allowing that to have its effect on me. It's just like you can weave these things in this way where we're not just like in front of a screen in a chair inside all day, you know, and like, though those there's going to be times to call for that. I mean, that's actually a wellness thing I'd like to start doing more is watching TV and movies. I don't do it at all because I don't like slow down long enough to, if I'm in a chair doing anything with a screen, it's usually business related, which is fine. But yeah, like reading books and getting back to some like entertainment actually does sound like it could be beneficial. I'm like the opposite of most people. Most people are like, I want to watch less TV and movies. And I'm just like, I really want to watch more movies.
Yeah.
I feel like there could be something there, especially like, yeah, there's some great stuff out there now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and like it's just being able to find time for leisure and
right. It's a message, right, that we're sending to our whole being.
Yeah.
That we have time for leisure. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's got to be tough in this world, you know, starting a business, running all the things that you do. I'm sure it can be hard to like give yourself permission to enjoy leisure and to do nothing, which I know like the guilt can be so real, but like sometimes doing nothing is just like what we need to recharge. So totally get that. And I love that you're working on so many aspects of wellness. And I love how like you're integrating a lot of just like the natural, like biohacking, like grounding, being outside, being in nature, things that are free and simple and so profoundly good for us. Because ultimately, like our society just needs that so badly. Just those free, simple, back to nature things. Okay, well, I have really enjoyed this conversation with you. And I feel like we've covered so many different topics of health, which I just love. Can you let everyone know where they can find you, your social medias, your spa in Leavenworth, like all the things?
Yeah, thank you. So Leavenworth, Washington is a really, really special part of the world. It's like almost smack dab in the center of Washington State. Beautiful mountain town with a Bavarian theme, which is a little kitschy and quirky, but people really love it here. And I'm right here on 14th Street in town, walkable from downtown areas. And don't tell anyone, but there's still free parking around here. So that's really nice. But yeah, and then I have my website, innerwatersiv.com. I've got an Instagram, innerwatersiv. All of these are just one word. So you guys can find me and follow me there. I've been having a lot of fun with content creation on my Inner Waters Instagram page. I do also have Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn doesn't get a lot of my attention, but you know, you do the things anyways. But yeah, and I'm just looking forward to bringing on more therapies. You know, you're sitting on the beamer right now. I'm going to turn that on for you here in a little bit so you can feel the effects of that. And I'm also looking at cryotherapy, like a cryo gun for body sculpting and reducing inflammation and these things. So yeah, it's basically, this is just the beginning of a comprehensive wellness center. I'm kind of calling in partnership and support. Like I'd love to get a team of people going so that here in Leavenworth, we can just have a really well-rounded, robust wellness center that allows people to access these different technologies that are available for our wellness, that might not otherwise feel as available in home, but stuff that you can implement with some regularity and really see some huge shifts in your energy levels and inflammation and general wellness.
Amazing. Well, yeah, if you guys are ever in Leavenworth, Washington, I know a lot of the people who follow me are in the Washington area in general, or like Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really great place to be, especially like this is kind of a drinking town. So if you are somebody who plans to go out and enjoy some beers, like plan ahead, get an IV, come see Morgan. It's a really, really beautiful space and just an incredible business. I'm really excited to watch you grow.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for being on my show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a treat.
Thank you.
Yeah.